to add an executive session for legal issues, which I didn't put it in this agenda. So if someone would move and second that.
So moved.
Change to the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. We'll add that. And we'll go into executive session when Dina Atwood, the SVSU attorney, arrives. In order, she has limited time, which we want to respect her time limits. So.
Ray, she thought maybe in the next 15 minutes, maybe?
Yes, right, yes.
Yeah, 7:45.
And then she had to leave by 7:15, I think it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
6:45 to 7:15.
Yep.
So let's see what we can get done here quickly. There aren't any public. I don't see any public. So we'll move on to finance report. So Mary?
Yes, well, a couple of quick comments. Number one is if you looked at the August 31st treasurer's report, there was not necessarily a negative operating cash balance. It looks like there was a $21,000 negative balance. That really wasn't so. There was actually 40,000 plus in the account. What I did though was, because most of that was the sinking fund, the building sinking fund. I did a $22,000 transfer from the line of credit, but it did not hit on August 31st. So it looks, according to this statement, that it wasn't there, but it was kind of in transit on that. So that we're back on par with all the accounts as they should be. The other thing to note is that in the third Friday of September, we should see the biggest of the state payments come through.
Yes.
When the analysis is done for borrowing and what we will need, you do it on a monthly basis. You don't do it days, particular days within a month. So at the end of the month, we would not need to borrow. If we were to have released all of the checks, which are on the warrant that you'll be approving, we would have needed to borrow, but you don't. The model doesn't work for middle of month checks. It's just, what do you need at the end of a month? So that's why there is a need to some of the checks that are on the warrant that you'll be signing. They can be approved, but they cannot be released until most likely the 24th of the month.
Okay.
And it's possible that they're there earlier, but I wouldn't count on it.
Right.
So
I did check with Tim at the village school, and he said he accepted the delay to the 24th, but he'd like to, Tim's in the meeting now, but he'd like to know if there's any change in that, whether it goes whichever way it goes, of course.
I'll be watching the account pretty much on a daily basis after next week, because it's possible. We used to see that around the 15th of the month.
Right.
But then last year it was the 24th. So I'll keep an eye on that. The only other thing to note is worth thinking about in May and June of next year, if the agreement is for the same thing, and if we find again that the state payment is coming in towards the end of the month versus the middle of the month, I'd have to make a significant adjustment on the borrowing, because that would require borrowing close to $200,000 more than we do.
Yeah. Okay.
So
all right. So we can talk about that next year based on I'm not sure whether the state's going to clarify that that's their new policy or if it's just a fact of life during this COVID and other turmoil.
I
financial.
have just made a note on my reconciliation and have put a note in the budget, in my folder for budget.
Okay, thank you. Anything else to say about?
No, that's it.
Okay. And this reflects payments through the end of the month on the projects we had going. So there's a little payment tonight for the balance of the EMP and for the rehanging the gutters at the school and the final trimming and metal work that by Doxy that will come out of the sinking fund. So, but we still will have a decent balance once that's done of about 41,000 in that fund, and we have this year's contribution to it, out of which we may have other expenses to pay throughout the year. That will keep it available for projects that we have to do around the building. Okay. We'll move to the consent agenda, which includes the warrants and also the minutes from last month. If there are any questions, I guess we should have a motion, and then I'll ask if there are any questions about what's in the warrant and any questions about the minutes. So I'll move that we move these items, and someone give me a second. And we'll,
I will second that.
thank you, Kim. And are there any questions about the warrant that you see there? If you look at it, Doxy is in there for 2 different payments. The reinstalling gutters, which included putting new different brackets on the building that do not require strapping onto the roof, of $3,140. And then there's the final bill on, it says EMP work, but it actually just means the trimming of the rubber and installing the metal drip edges. And then there's a rubber strip that gets sealed down over that to make sure there's no leakage at the perimeter of the building. And as part of that, it turned out that Doxy actually added insulation to the foyer entry on top. So there's there's like 3 inch, it was two 2x4s worth of additional insulation added there. So that foyer now has considerable R value there to resist transfer of heat, but of course I doubt that will defeat the flow of air that goes into that foyer. Any rate, so that curb got built up and the metal is a little bit deeper, so it actually obscures the cornice molding there. However, it still looks pretty good. And there was nothing I could do about it because I discovered that had happened. And it was not actually in what I thought was the work to be accomplished, but they included it in their price and we have the extra insulation. So those 2 items, and then down at the bottom, you see for Roy Terry, $72.50, which was the balance of his, that was the 50% balance remaining on his contract for painting the parts of the building, the cornice and soffit work that he hadn't painted last summer, and doing what's called essential maintenance practices on it, which basically for us are ensuring that the whatever lead paint there is up there is re-encapsulated so it's not dropping down onto the ground around the building. Then Lori gets payment for the minutes last month, and then there are payments to the village school, South Shire Community School. I need to count that. I think there are 9 children there. And Highland Hall for 5 students. That changes my total there. And that's basically it. Adds up to $231,757.16. Any questions? Nope.
Great.
Okay.
I want to thank you for all the work on this roof and the EMP and all of that. That is so good to have that finally behind us.
Yes, I agree with that, and I thank you for
And
your words.
driving by today, it looks really good with the gutters, and I'm glad I had a lot of anxiety about those gutters not being on there,
Yep,
given the rain that's coming.
yep.
So it's,
I did check after one of the heavy rains in the music room, and I found no evidence that there was intrusion.
fantastic.
And there was occupancy there, so they would have noticed if there had been any water intrusion. So for the moment that there is no issue there, I still think we ought to do something with those wells so that there's no likelihood of water getting down the building side and coming in at the base of the slab. But that we can take care of next year, maybe. Okay, so any questions about the minutes? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. Are we all in favor of passing the warrants and the minutes and payment for the minutes, which are included in the warrants, and the accepting the minutes that Lori produced for last August meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so that's all of us.
All in favor.
Thank you. Policies, none. Superintendent's report.
Evening, just this is the start of our second, we've completed 2 weeks of school today for our students. COVID-19 continues to be a challenge. We have a number of students who are quarantining because they have a positive exposure. It's pretty much impacted every school with this. I looked at the report earlier today. I think middle school, there's over 100 students who are required to quarantine because of positive exposure. I think 45 at Pownell Elementary today. So then I have some schools it's smaller than that, but those are the bigger ones that I'm seeing. It's a challenge for families, and it's extremely difficult on our school nurses who are struggling to keep up with particularly with the contact tracing. I can't praise them enough for their work that they've done to what I feel is we're taking a major responsibility off the state of Vermont, Department of Health, that our nurses are doing all this. They are partners with us in this, but no one has the capacity for this type of volume. And I truly hope that this has been described by Secretary French as a wave, not another surge, and that they're seeing numbers trending downward from this Delta surge. I hope that's true, because if it continues to go up, we're going to have a challenge to keep schools open. I did have to close Pownell Elementary for one day because we could not have the contact tracing done in time before school would open the next day. The volume, number of calls that have to be done to families to notify them, tell them that they need to qualify is overwhelming the staff. So, and obviously we're seeing it more in our elementary schools because they are not eligible to be vaccinated at this time. But I do think our beginning day transportation issues are working their way out. It's been a learning curve again because transportation was very different last year than what we, pre-COVID. And there's been some changes in routes and stops that were very different from COVID, before COVID. So families, drivers, staff are all adjusting and relearning. From my vantage point, I'm sure there are individual pockets that are still struggling with changes, but on-time pickup and arrival is getting closer to what it is scheduled for. So it is an improvement. The other thing I want to say is that one of my personal goals for this year is to continue in the study of equity, and I've also made it the theme for the SVSU this year. And I will be sending out an email to boards. One of the assignments that I gave our equity coordinator and our public information coordinator was to develop a speaker series on topics of equity. The first speaker will be next week. I will invite board members that they may attend. It's virtual. There's no public meeting for it yet. And the first speaker is Or Yang, and they're the executive director and legal counsel for the Vermont Human Rights Commission. And they will speak with SVSU faculty and staff about the work of the Vermont Human Rights Commission and what brought them to this work, and the individual and collective action that needs to happen within Vermont. So that speaker series is going to be, tell you where it is. It's going to be September 16th at 3:30 in the afternoon. It should be 30 to 45 minutes in length, then with a 15 to 20 minute question and answer via Zoom afterwards. So I will be sending a link to board members. You're welcome to join us. If you would like, we ask that you don't share the link. It's meant for the speaker understands that there are people from the education community that are going to be attending. I see Tim is here. I'd be happy to share it with you if you want anybody from your school to attend. We are opening it up to other education professionals. So
that sounds great.
yeah, and it's a series. It'll be every other month. Will be a series of speakers with different topics on equity, and equity can mean many things. It could be, food security is an issue of equity, and homelessness is an issue of equity. It's not just race and sexual preference, but those will also be topics too. So,
Right.
I hope you join us.
Thank you for the report. And
I don't see Dina yet.
yeah, keep on doing the good work here, trying to keep this place running smoothly.
Well, I do think there is a collective wariness. I don't know if you're seeing it in your school, Tim. It's that that this is the third school year that's being impacted by
Right.
COVID.
Yep.
We're collectively, I think we're in a better place in June because we thought that this school year would be somewhat more normal. We knew we were going to wear masks, but the impact of this new variant and the positivity rate was a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah. Well, there's a report in Vermont Digger about the health department having a general meeting, Zoom meeting, to air complaints and work through issues that staff have, and staff are just like here, they're frustrated, exhausted, and they sometimes think that there ought to be a different direction, that the health department ought to hold to a particular line and put it out there in the the politician should respond to that whichever way, but the health department should have its own point of view and keep to it.
I mean, there are states, one of our neighbors, New Hampshire, that is not doing contact tracing. Yet, I'm not saying that is necessarily in their practices. If you're sick, you stay home, you know, come to school. Well, we've been telling people you're sick, you stay home too. But contact tracing is, you know, someone who comes within 6 feet, whether they're masked or not, of somebody who has a positive test, then they need to quarantine. And that's the guidance, but yeah, it catches some people by surprise that is, you know, still taking place. And that I've had, I know at least some students who have quarantined twice now. That's a big impact, because they've been, not that they're sick, but they've had a series of exposures, been in school long enough that they quarantined, came back, and then there was not a positive case and they had to quarantine again.
What's catch can. It's our brownie in motion around people who end up bringing it in.
I don't have anything from Dina. I was going to see if she had.
Okay,
reached out
well,
to me.
I'm going to start on the chair's report and dispose of
here she
this
comes.
stuff. The summer facility work we've done, I pointed out that we finished with that. The solar project participation possibilities, I did check in on that with Power Guru, and the person pointed out that we have a possibility of either participating in a project or, but the more likely thing is that we just buy power, or the village school would buy power, and those options are not as well defined yet. So that's where we stand. We don't have any new news on that.
Hey, Ray,
Yes.
Dina's in the house,
Yep.
and maybe we should,
Yep. Are you ready? Yeah, she's not visible. Okay.
was,
So why don't we
now she
go
is.
ahead,
So I'm gonna,
move into executive
Yeah.
session?
and I'll have to create a breakout room to put you in. Everyone else who's like Cat, you can stay in the regular meeting, Mary, and yep. So are you want to take a vote to go to your executive session? I'll create.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wave your hands. Say something. Kiernan?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And I'm aye. So we'll move into executive session to deal with talking to our attorney about their legal issues.
Did drop off before we left.
And can you hear me?
Yes.
Lori LL left the meeting and asked me to finish the notes.
Okay, thank you.
Do we know if Matt's coming back to this meeting, or? He can't be in the other meeting. I closed the room, so he can't be there
You dropped off the other room before you.
before I closed it.
Yeah. I don't know if he lost reception or not.
Yeah, we have bad weather and I know he's in a bad spot, so.
Okay, well, I'll just pick up where I was going, which isn't very much more. So we'll deal with residency requests and approvals. That's the last thing. I wanted to talk about the generator briefly. I just wanted to ask Matt to take an interest in it, because it's in the possession of the village, and we need to think about what we're going to do with this. And I'd like for him to have a conversation with the village highway superintendent and so forth about it, and John Lamson. And we then will, if we get some information on it, maybe we can then start figuring out what we're going to do, because that'll require coordination with the village, with the village school, and so forth and so on. But just to the residency requests and approvals, I'll just update you on numbers.
Matt's coming back. Here he comes. So.
I'll just update you on numbers. Matt, we're just going to update on numbers of students that we have in the K to 6 range. The pre-K, wait a second, Tim sent me a number for the village school,
109, I think it was,
109
Earlier.
plus, he said there's 125 students, so that means there's 16 who aren't district residents. And then the pre-K has
Pre-K.
got another 25,
total number was 145, I think.
yeah, something like that.
I can look that up.
Yeah.
145 total pre-K through 6.
How much for them, Kieran?
145 pre-K through 6 total enrollment.
Okay,
Right.
and I think it was 125 for K through 6, so there's 20 in pre-K.
Yeah.
Okay, then, so 20 pre-K. So we've got 9 at South Shore, 5 at Highland Hall, 1 at Long Trail. We have 16, mostly at South Shasberry, but 1 at Monument, 1 at Molly Stark. So 16 minus 2, so 14 at Shasberry, and the rest at those other 2 schools in the SD, UESD. And plus that 31, so that's 140 K6 plus another 20 pre-K that we know of. And wait, did I include Sacred Heart and Grace here? Oh,
Wake up, Kim.
then there's so there's 140 plus 6 between Grace and Sacred Heart. 146 K6 plus 20 at least pre-K. That's 20 at the village school pre-K, I believe. So there are others out there because they go to other school, different pre-Ks. Non-BSNB pre-K. So that adds up to a hefty little increase in numbers between last year and this year. And as I said, I don't know that obviously means more money, more spending. And I'll have to try to run through that with the budget scenario and see what if we've got an estimate of where we're going to end up in terms of breaking even or spilling over into deficit a little bit. The last thing, I spoke at this when you were not here yet, Matt. I had the generator on my report, and basically I just wanted to ask you if you would, from using your village hat, check into what needs to be done, or how the village sees this, and I guess we need to figure out what we want to do as between the village and the school board and the school itself about that generator that we acquired for nothing from the
Right.
town of Bennington. So,
Well,
well, not quite nothing, but we did acquire it for
we
no cash.
I mean, I think we as a board you're looking into the cost sharing potential of getting it installed
Right,
from a community support perspective.
right.
And we had a meeting last night, and I wish I'd remembered to bring that up. But yes, I'm I think it's a good idea. But we've gone through this before, I think on 2 other occasions, and having a place where it can go.
Right.
And really it needs probably a covered structure, and
All right.
I'm not sure how what this one looks like compared to the ones that we got through military surplus in the past, or if this one is one and the same of what we were contemplating 5 years ago. I gotta circle back with Norm on that. And
I
John,
believe there's a picture, was an email picture that Tim sent me. I don't know, I don't remember whether it got to the rest of you. I think it did. Of the generator in situ as it was being removed from.
Yeah,
the
we all
side
got
of the-
that. It was like hanging on some, yeah, we all got
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it was being pulled up, right, yeah. I think it's a big Generac.
All
Is
right.
what I recall.
so that probably needs to be, God, I don't know if something like that would fit down in the furnace room as a, with an exhaust.
I don't think so.
Well,
I don't know how it would, well, it could get in there, I guess, but because there is access through the gymnasium ramp. I don't know if it would fit. There's a lot of stuff in there, in that room already.
a lot,
They,
yeah, a lot that probably doesn't need to be, but, or,
well, yeah, there's a rack that's got supplies on it.
yeah.
That's the only real space for that to go in, I think.
Let me make a note and go back, circle back to Norm and John on that.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I just didn't follow up on that.
That's okay. I didn't
And-
ask you to, but
and what
I'm
is
now
Tim's-
asking you to. so.
What is Tim's interest in it from his own standpoint?
He didn't tell me. He just happened to field it from Norm, I guess. Norm saying we can get this, and so he was asking me if the board was interested in it. So I said yes. Because it's free, it came in free.
Yeah, it's free, but you're looking
And-
at probably five grand of installation and
Installation and-
costs,
yep.
whatever, but those are the kind of costs that are definitely part of this ARPA thing. So
Yep,
I think we could cover those costs completely
right.
in terms of resiliency and having those.
Yeah,
having
it definitely seems like something that makes sense
Yep.
for the village and for the school.
Yep.
And for the community as a whole, because that is our only real meeting space in the community, other than going to Bennington College for something.
I'm gonna make a note of this and circle back with everybody. And Mary would have a lot to say about, the possibility of this being, the cost of installation and all that, being covered ultimately by the ARPA money that we're getting.
Okay,
Um,
that's the American Recovery and Investment Act, or what's
whatever.
it called?
yeah,
Yeah.
we're looking at maybe a couple $100,000 to the village.
That's,
And we have time to figure out how to spend it wisely.
yep,
So,
great deal.
uh,
All right, so any questions from the board? Just as sort of another, you got any comments you want to make or questions you want to ask me?
No, none right now.
I think we're just needing to get some information from Dina, and we'll just have to see how we proceed with all that. And
Right.
I hope the school can stay operational. In these times.
Nope.
That's all I got.
Yep. Yep, that they are operational at the moment. The question is whether there's going to be, introduction of a case that creates.
Just heard tonight that Williams College went remote after hoping to have a on-campus term, so we'll just see.
Williams did? Is that what you said, Williams?
Williams, yeah.
Yeah.
Justin Bowden.
Right. Kieran, you have something to say?
Say, if the college is closing down, doesn't bode well for kids that are in more closer proximity.
What's that?
I was gonna say, if the college is going remote, that's not a good sign for,
No, right.
kids.
The last time they went out about 2 weeks ahead of us.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have to maintain 50% student body in the building for the data count. We haven't dropped below that yet, even with the amount of students quarantining, but we monitor it daily. Or if we
Right.
get to that point, then we cannot operate remote under current state guidelines.
Right.
I can have a class be remote, but I can't completely shut down and I can have a class operate remotely as long as 50% of the students are still in the school.
So when
Otherwise, it
you
won't
close,
count.
Jim, when you had to close panel for a day,
They won't count, but we have a 180-day schedule. They
yeah,
only have to do 175. So as it is right now, Powell won't have to make that up.
right.
Similar, we had Woodford closed a day this year already too, but that was septic system related, not COVID related.
Okay. Yep. Anything else?
Good luck,
I-
everybody.
I appreciate your participation in the executive session. I thought that was productive and, we don't have any action coming out of that at the moment, but I think it was productive and
Yeah.
at least we're moving forward.
So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Yep.
I'll second that.
Okay, we're adjourned, folks.